Well, let's go ahead and get it going, brother. Do the welcome.
Olokun fún wa wá ojú mẹ́ta àṣẹ ojú mẹ́ta. Olokun fún wa wá ojú mẹ́ta
àṣẹ ojú mẹ́ta.
Olokun fún wa wá ojú mẹ́ta
àṣẹ ojú mẹ́ta.
Ashe, welcome to another episode of...
Welcome at Cabo. It's another episode, y'all, of the greatest podcast on the planet. Let's Talk IFA. I am Awo Ifa Jaminire.
And I am Awo Ifa Tegunshe.
And we welcome you back for another episode. We hope everybody is blessed. We hope your families are blessed. We hope all Ire Lopo for everybody that's listening. Everybody that's been watching, everybody that's been supporting. We appreciate you. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We got a lot of big things coming up. You know, my motto is everybody eats.
Ashe. And so the reason why I started off with the drumming and we were singing to Olokun. Olokun fun awa oju meta. Olokun has given us a third eye. Right? And so the reason why I started singing that song to Olokun is because here on the podcast today, we have one of our elders.
Special guest.
Special, highly favored, Olokun priest, the oldest priest of Olokun in North America.
I say.
We have with us today. Gotta hit the drum for that. We have with us today, Baba OmotOlokun, chief priest of Olokun, here on Let's Talk IFA today. Welcome, Baba. We welcome you.
Aboru, aboye, aboshishe.
So, Baba, we want to start off by asking you, how did you come into Yoruba culture?
Okay. OmotOlokun tope. OmotOlokun tope. OmotOlokun tope. OmotOlokun tope.
I say why?
I say. I was in ITC seminary, Johnson C. Smith to be exact. Had graduated from Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte. And then I was sitting at home. My uncle was drinking beer and I was drinking iced tea. And the pastor of the local church called to watch me grow up. And he said, he was looking for me. And my uncle said, he's sitting right here. My uncle said, matter of fact, I'm drinking iced tea with him. So he said, just come to seminary. I don't want to hear it. Just come to seminary, and you got a full ride. And so when I got there, they gave me $200 a month, food, place to stay. And so I stayed there.
What year was this, Baba?
That was in 1970.
Okay.
70.
But I had been going to Oyotunji when it was one Ile on Braze Island. I had seen Kabiesi Obal Surgeon at Funtola Ade Fumi the first when I was a child. When I was a child. And it stuck in my memory, in my cultural memory, stuck in the cultural memory. And so when I went there, it was Madahochi, Chief Awolo, and Chief Awolo. Madahochi, Ibao. And my Alba, I met my Alba who was walking around barefooted and working. he was the hardest working person I'd ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I would see the Kabiesi go into the woods and cut down a whole tree, take the limbs off of it and walk it out, one whole tree.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying, I know there's no way I can do that. But it was in the pioneer days I went.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the days when he was deciding that he was going to have the guts to change America.
I say.
It was in the days when he always had guts.
Mm-hmm.
He would do things that nobody else would do. I have sat down with Iyasunta Ibaratoru in New York. I have sat down with Mama Keke. And I sat down with the Queen Mother Moore, and they all talked about his guts. And so when I was divined by Chief Awolowo Baraton, it was designed. It was the Defa said I was a child of Olokun. They thought first I was a child of Eshu, because of behavior. and because of I always had a trick or two, and so then they said, "Well, you're gonna be the Eshu to Olokun," and I said, "Okay, that might be something." But then I went to all the time I was in seminary. Then the perplexing part, when I got ready to leave seminary, they said, you're gonna have the ability to live in two worlds.
Sure.
And I'm saying, but nobody else had to do that. Why did I have to do that? Why did I have to have one foot in the church, one foot in culture? I didn't learn till later when I became Ogboni why I had to do that. They said, because you have saved a lot of folk through your knowledge from Oyotunji. You've saved a lot of folk because Kabiesi had me practice preaching in Oyotunji. I just substituted a lot of things. And I would preach the Odu. Preach the Odu with song and everything. And they would have talent shows. And I would be bringing up the rear, the last act on the talent show. And then I would go with him into Yamasee and Charleston and places, and I would be the designated preacher for the Odu. And so, I learned important things like one Odu, I think it was Erosun something, and it's not dementia, it's just I wake up in the middle at 4 o'clock in the morning and remember what it was. And it said that Buttocks was told not to go out without trousers. Trousers would be his best friend. And Buttocks decided that it didn't need trousers. So Buttocks went out by itself. And old women threw stones at Buttocks, whipped Buttocks with switches. And Buttocks had to run back in the house. And so the moral of that story is don't be a buttocks. Do what you're supposed to do. And things will go better. Know which partners you're supposed to have. Which covering you're supposed to have. And so I learned to have the right coverings. And then as I was in seminary, I kept going back and forth to the village. It was maybe 3 hours. I would drive, the other people were afraid to, but I would drive through the Savannah River plant from Atlanta. And then around Augusta, you go through that nuclear place. And then the water would be stagnant and green, and the people would look kind of orange-like. They had a jaundice, and you couldn't stop. You were not allowed to stop. They brought you in, and at the end, you were gone. So I did that a couple of nights, and that was not good. And so I would go down to the village, and bit by bit, I would see things. And I got an opportunity to see the progress over the years, to see the progress. Now, and then I began to see, then we moved to the new land. And then I became a part of the Dokwe.
So what year was this that you moved to the new land?
Well, I graduated in '73.
Okay.
And when I graduated, I went straight to Olokun to live.
So this was the old land. This was the Braze Island.
Went from Braze Island to the new land.
To the new land.
Right.
So you was part of that transition.
That transition. And part of that work.
Right. Sure.
I was with Operation Prime Beef. And it was very, very, very funny because at that time, a man named I.D. Smith came to take over the Olokun. And KBAC developed, I guess, Green Beret Special Forces out of Operation Prime B. My god brother, Osamola, we were Ibeji, we were initiated the same day, just about the same time. He was initiated to Obatala. And I was initiated to Olokun. And there was an Oya. There was an Oya priest who built a mud hut house. His whole house, he built it every day. He got up and worked for months and months. And he built it, and it stood. And then, let me see, what, and then I think there was an Oshun priest. We had a car that would crank up and go, and nobody else could drive it. It was a station wagon. And these people had stolen the key to the post office, box 551. Everybody had the same post office. All the mail came into Sheldon, and we were sent, and it stole the state drum. Unfortunately, I made one of my best friends, because you could not stand up in the Elays at that time. But you had to stand up at night sometime because the kerosene lamp, the heat would come up from the kerosene stove, and you learn then to turn it off and get under the covers. So when we went, they would say each one of you will have a job to do. Batala would be our leader, our commander. I would be dealing with location, logistics. Where are the people? The Oya would be the one that would be the terror of the group. And the Oshun would try to do a little public relations with the people that we had to jump on. And so they said, we don't know where they are. What's your job? What's your job? I said, they're at the beach. It just came off the top of my head. They're at the beach. So enough, we caught them coming back from the beach. And they were trying to develop a little village. And then my job also was to take their electric from them. Some of the things I regret now, but it was during the time that we were under attack, physically under attack. And the other man, one man said, I can't hurt a fly, so he couldn't go with us. And then the Oshun guy actually was the trickster. He made like, oh, everything is all right, and he got us in to the camp by fooling the people. And I.D. Smith was dead serious. He was going to take over Olokun and do a coup. And that wasn't about to happen. We were young, had no children, and so that was the situation. When we came back, we had a good welcome, and we came back, and Osamola became the first Alagba.
Sure.
Then I used to like to boy all the time, and so in the old days, I look at y'all now, and that's why I really am respectful of what you do. I look at the Agan now, and man, our Agan was mammy made, as I call it. by the time that Gun got back, something was missing. You know, a sock or lead band was missing off it. And so we started studying things. And Oshamola and I sat down one day and said, we have no songs. And Aguna Rabara came up and some but we always did Mojiba Fefe because that's what the Alba liked. And we did that. In that time too, as I remember, we did Lord Shango. We did the movie
play.
Lord Shango.
Oh, the movie Lord Shango, right.
At that time, exactly.
Right.
Because the guy that played Jabbo, he and I got in a fight on the bus the first day. Because nobody had taught him how to drum. He's supposed to be the drummer. Right. He played these things, the knitting needles. He would be always playing them. And he picked me of all people, and I was a Yawo. And that was the wrong thing to do because our Yawos were always considered babies. Right. And you would protect your youngest baby. And so I didn't have to worry about anything with that. And then...
So Baba,
yeah.
Let me go back. So you was initiated.
74.
1974, you was initiated.
74, 75. Well, it came together. They did moons.
Okay,
we did moons at that time instead of years.
Right.
We did lunar things. And so in 74, it's been about 50 years now.
Wow. Couchelle.
And so, and then I was still conflicting back and forth. And so I had been in Atlanta living with Tosu Tosa Salim, also known as Adeto Komba. He was a drummer. You know, he still lives in Atlanta. That was Matty Hoach's son-in-law. Right. And so, and Tosu and I had, I used to go to Gary and Anna to drum with them. And then while in seminary, we drummed with a troupe called Egbe Onilu. And we traveled to HBCUs and whatever. And I was thinking the other day, in 1971, drumming, we got $80 a show. And so, you know, I had a little piece of money. We played, and we had a dance group. Oloye out of Cleveland, Ohio. It was Abatala, and he did a lot of stuff. One of the things that during that time, Oloye knew medicine, and a little boy had gangrene in his thumb, and we did a 6-hour surgery on his thumb. No doctors, all of us. We used things like wool, sugar, honey. We had to cut the gangrene. We made paste out of honey. Honey is, and then we burnt wool, pure wool, with sugar, and we held it over there to numb it, and then the next day they went back to the doctor for the surgery. The doctor said, "You don't need no surgery." And but the funny part of that was when I started to then learn that Yoruba culture is so different. Unbelievable things happen. Sure. And what it was, the divination said the little boy was Aganju. He was a child of Aganju. And they kept putting orange hats on him. And he loved to put orange hats on. And that was his taboo. And he would always get off kilter when, and that's how he busted his finger up. And so, then back and forth. Then I moved to Oyotunji and did not know the ramifications of disrespecting divinations and taboos. I was not supposed to hunt deer. And the first day we went out to hunt deer, when I got back, my house was like cinders. It was smoking off the ground. My whole Ile was gone. Wow. So I had no clothes, no food, no nothing. And I became like indentured servant in Oyotunji. That's how I made it. I didn't want to leave. but I became like an indentured servant.
Okay.
And still at Yawo. And became an indentured servant.
So you were Yawo at this time,
Right.
OmotOlokun.
And so then the dope play was, we were working like, I don't know what.
Can you tell the people what the dope play was?
Is the men, and everybody wanted to be in the dope play, even the old men, because if you were a man, you had to belong to the dope play. The dope play was the homie term, and that was the workforce.
Sure.
I used to have to sing the song for that was Adakun Dide Eluami Ishe, Lords of Work. Dakun Dide Eluami Ishe. Dakun Dide Eluami Ishe. That was our dark play song.
Wow.
And then you also had, it was the beginning of Akinkanji. Now I have to admit, I was passing Akinkanji, but I never walked the booth. And so I guess I semi-passed. Because then I had to leave and go do some work, and the family was calling me. And at that time, it brought me to find my father. Because I had never seen my father. I had seen him, but I had never seen my father. So I met my father when I was like 25. And Oyotunji encouraged me to find out where he was. So that's one of the reasons for leaving to go. I had a son born in Oyotunji. And that's when I learned the ritual with the placenta. The father with the placenta after the child is born. And then that was very interesting. And so as you probably know, the wife I took to Oyotunji is now a congresswoman. And so bottom line, I was like a pioneer there. I remember the first time I built the Ile by myself, and didn't build an outhouse. And then so it was about 3 hours later I had to use the bathroom. And I built the outhouse, but I didn't see the need to put a roof on the outhouse. So it was some rainy days when you go out, take your soap, go in the outhouse, and you had a shower. It was a warm day in the summer, you had to shower in your outhouse. And so those are kind of things. So I ran into some powerful people. Like tall man, as we used to call him.
I say he by
Baratoron.
Oyewole Baratoron.
I say.
And I was in his platoon. And we had the baddest platoon that existed in the world. Everybody else we would do Operation Prime Beef, and we would be shooting over heads, and we would get the order, shoot level. And you hear something, come on, man. Oh, come on, man. Come on, quit playing. Quit playing. You hear some people screaming. You hear something say, ping. It would be bouncing off the railroad tracks. And so, then I learned a lot about Ogun. And that's when I couldn't swim, and that's when they threw me in the water. And I found a log. I swam to a log and got on the log. And then I said, well, the log is in the middle of the pond. So I had to get off and swim back. So that's how I passed the swimming part.
That's how you learn how to swim, Baba.
That's how I learned how to swim. And so in those days, people made friends in the community. That's where I know it could happen. The elderly people. And then the dog play had what was called Alafa Juto. That was the chief of the dog play. And the Alafa Juto, it was my roommate. And the Alafa Juto, we had been friends. Unfortunately, Alafa Juto fell in with Adeyemi Smith later on. And the Alafa Juto, you can sometimes now know, you'll see Lafa Juto in a lot of movies. A lot of movies, that's the Lafa Juto. And Drumline was the latest one I thought I saw. And so we worked and we worked and we worked. We would go out into the community and do some work sometime. come back with a chicken, a rooster, or what have you. Go to Small's store.
Mr. Small's.
Mr. Small's store, that Baratorium. And so then we would cook, and we learned how to cook as part of it, because if you had no wife, I ate in the IFA. But the problem was Ogunyemi was in charge of me while I was a Yawo. And those are some of the worst eating days of my life, because I would say, what did y'all have? He said, oh man, we had fried chicken and I got gizzards. In other words, he ate what he wanted off the plate and then brought it to me in the temple. And I would have half a drink. But I loved him because this was the guy that would have full coconut shells, and he would lose one, and then he would throw three, read the three. And I guess he would make up what the other one was. And yet he would be dead accurate. That was Ialosa Yeye Fini's son. As a matter of fact, it was Ialosa Yeye Fini that taught me how to divine with Dilogun. And so as I began to progress, I would be in the Oyotuns and out of Oyotuns. And then I came back, and I stayed at Oyotuns like 3 years, and then went to find my father. And that's how I ended up in Milwaukee, of all places.
Wow.
And so then I left the church, obviously, and began to study. And then I was like from temple to temple out in the world, you know, in Gary and Chicago. And then Ialosa Adekola went into Oyotunji. And so I met her in Milwaukee. She went. Then Chief Awodikun, the came in. He saw what I was doing. He came in to Oyotunji. And then Shango Lori, Clay, came into Oyotunji. And I was working with them because Clay was like the manager of social development and commission. And so I had a decent income. And then that's when one son was born in Oyotunji. My other son I delivered on the living room floor in Milwaukee. That was Oshawande, who now likes to call himself Supreme. It was Supreme Solar Allah. It's a 5%. And so I said, no, you can't be solar because you get up too late in the morning. So you got to be lunar. So he dropped the Allah part and all that.
Okay.
And finally, I'm proud of him. He's getting ready to Ishefa. And he's going to Ishefa. And he's also a child of Olokun. My other son is an old man at 46 because he went through a lot with rickets and everything, and he's more conservative than a whole lot of folks. So I'm still working on him. But they're still my sons. Okay? And so that was part of go back and forth Oyotunji, back and forth. And then I got into Ogboni and Oyotunji. One of the things I'm grateful to is that Chief Awolowo made me study Yoruba. Everybody who was not a chief, everybody who was not a chief, I had to teach Yoruba in Oyotunji. I taught in the academy. And I developed a doctoral program in Oyotunji from the Theological Arts Ministry. We call it Doctor of African Psychology.
Yeah, can we let's go into that, Baba, for a minute, if you don't mind. Let's stop there and dive into that, what you just mentioned about the academy. Can you expound on that for us? Give us a little more detail on what was going on and how it was developed and what you did and all that stuff.
It was first of all, it seemed like that His Royal Highness knew everything in the world. He could talk about Greek stuff. He could talk about Roman stuff, and he loved some of the worst. Some of the big subjects he knew were like Roman emperors. Okay, because he told me some wild stories about Caligula. I said, whoa. and he knew one of the pieces that he knew European culture. So he could pinpoint the directions they were going.
Right.
He also knew what he had to do to debrief you, de-brainwash you,
yeah,
out of that culture, because that's where the academy came to, Yoruba Theological Arts Ministry, because the stuff he was doing in New York came to Oyatunji. But see, everybody wasn't ready to go in the mud and the snakes and the swamp.
Right, I'm sure.
And so they would come down and they couldn't hack it. Some people would stay for 2 or 3 days and had to leave.
They're gone.
They had to go. But I learned to deal with what I heard at night. I learned to recognize what was what at night that I was here moving, knew when not to go out inside. And there would be some readings. Sometimes the ancestors, the slaves would be uprising, the ones that had died, and you had to stay in. I remember some nights on, what do they call it, Isholu?
Isholu.
On Isholu, I had to look out of a little peephole in the gatehouse, because nobody was supposed to walk out at night. But I had to walk out at night. So they had to make medicine for us. If we were on duty to Isholu, had to make medicine. On one night, the Klan came down, and I thought I had a 30-06. And I was standing, and they said, we just want to go in and turn around. I said, no, you're not coming in here and turn around. I couldn't go to the drum and alarm anybody. So I had to stand off with them. They were on the back of a truck. And so then I raised the rifle, fired a warning shot, and realized I had a 22. And when they got on top of the hill, they let off with shotguns and 30-06s and whatever. And that was funny, because the next morning I got rods for oversleeping. I got rods for oversleeping. And you had a responsibility. What his Royal Highness said, at night you will not sleep, and the day you will not rest. But rest is not a thing of the day, or sleep a thing of the night. As long as one blade of grass goes, that needs to be cut for the nation. And if you do not do that, you will be used as fool for the nation. The king has said he forbids the strong to take advantage of the weak. It is like the farmer. It's like stealing the farmer's chickens without asking permission. And you learn that. And you learn that whatever it took, you were going to do it. You were going to survive. We were in a survival mode at that particular time. But now, later on, we got into learning modes. We got to travel. And when the Oba came back from Ile-Ife.
So this was what year here, 80?
Yeah, we going up into that period now. But see, I was still connected.
1980,
out in the world.
81.
Right, out in the world, I was still connected. And then the Oba decided that what happened was that I was in Milwaukee, and the Oba decided I need to be in the Alagba. And Oba made that decision. I didn't. He made that decision. That was the first title I got from Oyatunji.
Baba, can you explain Alagba to the people?
Alagba is, to me, is one of the progenitors of the Egungun, Egbe Egungun. The keeper of the ancestors. The Alagba, and now we just got we got a 21st century Alagba.
I see.
He's just cool to me. You know?
I see. Yes,
I've
he
never
is.
seen somebody make one step and they be in the next county. He makes another dance step. He's back at home. He make another dance step. He be in New York. You know, and that's how he moves.
Yeah.
And he's smiling like he knows something that nobody else knows. and the Alagba does. The Alagba is the chief of the Egungun Society. He's the keeper of the traditions for the Egungun Society. And it was amazing because and when we were dealing with the Alagba also deals with the culture in terms of keeping an eye on what's supposed to be happening. The Alagba knows the Alagba knows the inner workings of the community, what's going on and what's going right and what's going wrong. Okay, what's going right and what's going wrong. And at the same time that I went to speak at a African American and indigenous Native American group and the Ojibwe people.
The Ojibwe.
The Europeans call them Chippewa, but the name is Ojibwe. Ojibwe initiated me into the Ojibwe, and they said, "You're gonna have a dream tonight, and tell us what the next day. Tell us what the dream was." Well, I dreamt about black bears all night long, and they said, "That's because you're in the Bear Clan." So they named me Mucka De Muckwa, Black Bear. They know me as Black Bear up in Wisconsin, and the Black Bears were like Egungun people. They watched what happened in the community, and the black bear and the wolf never fought each other. They ran together, and the wolf clan and the bear clan. And so the Egungun society then knows the secrets and the inner workings of the community. And it's the ancestors that you can actually bring back. And the Alagba directs, and there are a lot of titles within the Egungun society. And the Egungun society is a fine tool for dealing with your ancestors. And the Alagba directs that, but also the Alagba takes the heat for anything that happens. And I learned it by taking the heat one time when we had to banish one Egungun from ever coming back in the village. And so that was an interesting day. I didn't know you could do that, but we had to do that. It was destructive, and it was playful, it was destructive, and well, the family loved it, but the Alagba said, no. that Egungun is not coming back.
So how many years was you the Alagba of Oyotunji?
Not of Oyotunji. His Highness wanted me to be the Alagba out in the world.
Benny, Otun, Osi, or one
of the Alagba. Okay,
and
wow.
So I was the Alagba in Wisconsin.
So at that time, who was the Alagba at the village at that time?
Ooh. It still could have been Oshamola, I'm not sure.
Orishamola?
Okay. All right.
What year was this?
Oh, man, that was in the 70s.
This was the 70s?
Late 70s?
Yeah.
Late 70s going into the 80s?
I can't go back. And you could probably go back to Alagbas at that time. And then I think maybe Chief Ajamu, everybody told him, he may have been at that time.
Okay.
And then Chief Adeyemi Baratorum was tougher. He was tougher than Egungun society. I learned a lot from. I know who was the Alagba. Chief Ogunleye.
Ogunleye, right. That's what I was thinking of.
At that time that you were speaking of.
He's now, what, 95?
Like around his time.
95. I talked to him not too long ago. And I give him a call from time to time.
Wow.
Right.
And I studied under him as an Alagba too.
Okay.
I studied under him as an Alagba when he came, and I drummed with his family.
Okay.
I drummed with his family. I introduced him to his wife.
I say.
His second wife, I introduced him to because she was in Atlanta. And she was a teacher.
Yeah, right,
and I helped do her funeral, remember?
The Yamaja priest. Osha Rami.
Yeah. And so, and speaking of which, we're not going to do that on the podcast, but we need to reach out to him.
Benny.
We need to reach out to him, see how he's doing. Some people are in denial about what has happened, but we reach out to him because we're family. And I was like the little boy that got missing at the funeral. They brought out a goon and everything, and the child was missing, right? And so, and the man had lost his wife, and they found him, and they said, "Where were you?" And he was saying, "I was with Baba." And they said, "What could you have possibly done with Baba?" And we were missing all this time. The goon has come out, everything has come out, and it's dark, dust dark. And he simply said, "I helped him cry." And so sometimes that's all you can do. But so, as a matter of fact, I'm going to call him tomorrow and see how he's doing. And so he was always a vegetarian. And so when you go down there, the joke was that he had a 3 split-level outhouse. Because he needed all the outhouses for the beans and the vegetables. And so we had some fun in those days. Like Teeny Boo. She would make jewelry, and by the time you got back up to the center of town, the jewelry had fallen off your wrist. but you loved you loved her. You loved her. And now she's one of the most prolific pieces in the country. But you had to realize she could sell you anything. You didn't even know what it was. She was selling rocks. And by the time you got back, the rocks were good, but the jewelry wasn't going to last that long. Now she has a botanica. She has a whole store. So you see, watching these folk grow up, my best friend, I think, in Oyotunji, was the current Oba's mother.
Yeshuogo.
She was the world's champion of all Nigeria and the whole world of Akara. She could bake Akara. You put your hands in the grease to get it. You couldn't wait for the grease to come out. And so that time when I had no house, no money,
when it got burned down.
Had no money. That's who fed me all that time.
You know, a lot of people say that too about Yeshuogo, that she took care of everybody. She like everybody that was like, if they didn't have no food to eat, Yeshuogo, they knew to go to Yeshuogo.
And I knew her schedule. And I knew what time she was gonna start. And I could slide through and get a car and be gone. And when I'm coming back, people say, "You have to stand in the line." They didn't know that was my second trip coming back. And because I knew when she first started Kara.
Right.
She would let me know about the time the Kara, that I could get in there.
You time it.
I time it. And she and I danced for Eshu doing Bembes. We were a team. When Harry Regional Report came down. NBC, Harry Regional Report came down. And we danced. And remember one day, His Royal Highness had us dancing because the FBI was in the village. And so we would dance and we would disappear. I don't know how we did that. I've tried to recreate that and couldn't do it. We would disappear. And the FBI was trying to film us and watch us. And we would disappear and we'd be leaning on the pole over the FBI's shoulder. They would say, "Wait a minute. What happened? You were just out there. We saw you." And that was the first time they said I walked on coals, hot coals. Because I didn't want them to say I walked on hot coals, because I'm not walking on no hot coals. But they said that was the thing. Both of them, she and I both did. And so, yeah, she fed me during that time. And anything she fixed was gourmet. And so I developed friends over the time. Then the great Oshuna Lowry came from the military, from Vietnam. He's a Vietnam vet. And he came, and we stayed in the room as you go into the Afin. There used to be rooms on both sides, housing on both sides. And that's where I stayed with him. And until he started seeing ghosts at night, and I asked to be moved somewhere else. and you know, everybody talks about ghosts and Hanks and stuff in South Carolina. And the first time I saw one, I was ready to pack up then and leave. But and at about certain parts of the night, it would get real solid in the Elay. And one night I saw a little girl about so high, and with a dress on and like ruffled dress, and she left with Orson Lowry, and Orson Lowry came back and told me she took me in the middle of the highway. That's when I knew I had to get back here. And that was the night he described my father, whom he had never seen, that had passed. And I said, "Oh no!" I said, "This stuff is real."
Yeah,
because of the Hanks you heard about, the ghosts, the ancestors, slaves that walked the land, and you hear all those things. But we developed a strong relationship with people. One of the things that bothered me about that tragedy at Mother Bethel Church in Charleston, South Carolina, is I knew all the Pinckneys. I knew all the Pinckneys from nearby the village. Mr. Pinckney, Johnson C. Smith, Herbert Pinckney, Johnson C. Smith was one of my mentors. All the Pinckneys were related to each other. All of them were related to each other. So Mr. Pinckney had the shrimp boat.
Right.
It was funny. Joe Frazier had like a $200,000 shrimp boat, and he would come back with 2 shrimp.
The boxer Joe Frazier.
Yeah, the boxer Joe Frazier. And then Mr. Pinckney would build his boat, build his nets, and then he said to, you going to want some shrimp? Yeah. He said, don't worry me for that. I go and bring you a shrimp when I come back. Us is gonna bring you shrimp. And he would bring me a bushel. And they would be big old shrimp. And what happened with Joe Frazier, the boxer, would go the wrong way on the water, and the shrimp would come back to the pink. They would wait for the shrimp to come back with their homemade nets and what have you, and so we developed. Then one lady asked us to come to her house. This is when Oyotunji became accepted in the community.
Okay.
What happened?
So we in the 80s yet?
Yeah, we in the 80s. Because what happened was everybody would sneak down for their reading.
Right.
Because they said, "Oh man," Oyotunji said, "Now we can get a reading," and they couldn't say village. They said, "We're going down to the village and get us a reading," and they would go get the reading in the village, right? and they would sneak. But what I did when I was there too was I was with the tourism department.
Okay.
And I loved that because y'all was doing dog play. And if somebody came, I had to go change and lead a tour. Because, see, I was part of that academy, the school, back to the school, part of the academy, that I could teach about the history of Oyotunji and what we were doing and welcome them to Oyotunji. And that would be the slowest tour that they ever had. Because I could either be up on the roof, out there with the snakes and mosquitoes, or leading the tour. Because the only thing you do is wrap a lop around you. At that time I had I didn't have a 6-pack, but that was about 175 pounds ago. Okay. And being one of the main drummers in Oyotunji at that particular time. And so we could lead tours, and my teacher for tours was E.I. Rite.
Okay.
We leading tours. Okay. And so then E.I. Shanla was for I learned for culture. Then Yeyefini, Losa Yeyefini taught me how to divide. And Dilogun. And Chief Awolowo taught me language. So I was geared to be one of the teachers in the community. And at the same time, I was learning how to be a Olokun priest. Because I was the first one initiated in the United States. Right. But Kabiesa said, the Cubans always said that if you initiate the Olokun, you'll go crazy. And my argument with the Cuban was I was crazy when I got the oil too. And so how I was going to be crazier than I was already crazy. And so put it in my head. And so the Odu was Odi Rosun that came out for my initiation. Then when I Itefa, my Odu was Ogbe Alara, Ogbe Otura. And so, you know, I said, okay, all that made sense to me then. And we dealt with Olokun as being male, being Oba. We appropriate Ora, which is my road of Olokun, and it's Olokun's wife. If you want anything, you go through his wife. A lot of people don't understand that concept because there are a lot of Olokuns. As a matter of fact, there are some Olokuns. Now they said Olokun is the father of this one and that one. And you, put it this way. Everybody want to be a Olokun, but then nobody want to be a Olokun. You know what Moody said?
Paul Moody.
Paul Moody said.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, and I guess this is a podcast and I can see what he said.
You can say it.
Everybody want to be a nigga, but don't nobody want to be a nigga. And so there are certain things about Olokun. Then people begin to find out Olokun could bring you money. So everybody says, I've been worshiping Olokun for years. It's not the case. Olokun was like on the back burner. Olokun was like forgotten Orisha. Olokun was like, what can I say? Olokun was like an afterthought.
Right.
But you end every bimbe singing to Olokun.
Olokun, bow wow,
bow wow, risha, bow wow, yeah. Olokun, bow wow, bow wow, risha, bow wow. And you got your hands out asking for something. And so then the bottom of the sea has always been a fascination. Do you, and you already know, Chief, that what's on the earth is under the sea as well.
Exactly.
You got rivers, volcanoes, you got hidden places under the sea. You got places where you can live under the sea. I'm not trying to do that, but you do have places that you can do that. And Olokun is a natural phenomenon.
Sure.
So what happened was simply this. We were not advanced in language at that time. And so to both of you chiefs, we were not advanced in language at that time. So I was named OmotOlokun. OmotOlokun. Okay? And that should have been copyrighted. I'm going to tell you why. A woman in Atlanta changed the last name of her family to Olokun. And I asked her why she did that. And I don't know, she was trying to make someone else angry or whatever she was trying to do. I said, but Olokun, even Nigeria didn't have that name because it was what I call mammy-made name. We were doing the best we could with the language.
What you knew.
What we knew. OmotOlokun. Or now we might call myself OmotOlokun or something like that. But I like my son Adetolokun.
Right.
Okay. But so then there's, as you know now, there's a woman in the village who named her compound OmotOlokun. I said, and my wife was beginning to think, when are you gonna stop these people from taking part of your name and doing all kinds of stuff with it? She wrote a book where her last name is Olokun. I saw her last year in September at the Matahochi Festival. And I said, there are 4 reasons why I have not come after you. And she was, what are they? Your 4 children. Because I love your 4 children because they are Behazim, Baba told them.
Behazim, man.
They're his children.
His children.
And when my son was dying with Legionnaire's disease, because he would go to all these hotels for, my son is in the House of Representatives in Wisconsin. He's an assemblyman in the House, the legislature. And he was going to all these places, okay? And as he was going to all these places, I went up there, and all his doctors were Arabs. And I said, thank goodness that Trump didn't get all the Arabs out of the country. And he had legionnaires, okay? And, you know, the legionnaires come from the air-conditioned units in the hotels and stuff. And for a couple of days, they had to put him on the kidney machine. And as we were doing the prayers and stuff, I said, I need, like, guinea corn and stuff, but ain't nowhere in the world you can get that. And I called Behazin, and he said, I got it, and my wife is bringing it to you. She's driving 90 miles to bring you what we need for the airball for him. And he survived, all right? And so that's Yoruba culture.
I say.
That's the connection you have with Yoruba culture.
I say.
Then recently, when COVID came, I get a call that Ade, my oldest son, has been taken to the hospital with COVID. And he was on life support on the machine. And then I get a call the next day, his brother is in another hospital with COVID. And I was writing a eulogy, and Orisha told my ancestors, we didn't tell you to write no damn eulogy. You better go get your airball together. And I got up because I was devastated. I'm gonna lose my two sons. And I got up and I went and I talked to a Bachelor priest in Milwaukee that was initiated through Oyotunji. So we had that relationship.
Right.
He did the airball for me. Because I'm devastated. I'm trying to figure which things to lean on. So I called the hospital and I asked the nurse how's he doing. She said, well, you know he's on life support. And I'm saying, okay. I called his mother, and the mother calls the hospital, and she calls the Secretary of Insurance for the state of Wisconsin. So the next time I call back, yes, sir, Dr. Omokunde, he's doing this, and we got working on around the clock.
Yeah.
Well, when my other son was sworn in, he was sworn in from a hospital room with a hospital gown on.
Wow.
I said, you'd have turned around, that would have been history made. But I said, don't do that. But anyway, so this is Yoruba culture.
I say.
This was going to the ancestors, because you got to also remember that when my youngest son was in a wreck when he was about 8 years old, and a drunk driver hit them. They were going to an intersection at 55 miles an hour, going to an intersection. And I asked him, where are you? Do you know where you are? Before he went into the coma, he said, I'm with Ma. That was his grandmama that had died. He would say he was with Ma. And they said a nurse came and helped him for a while, and they described the nurse, and it was his grandmama that had passed. And see, I said, okay, there are certain things that convince you.
I say.
That convince you that you're in the right culture. Because after a while I learned not to worry. Because if you're going to do all these prayers in airball and worry,
thank you.
You know, why worry?
What you worrying for? Do you really believe what you're doing?
Right. And so if you go worry, don't do the airball.
Don't do it.
Don't do nothing.
Right.
So all of this reflects back on Oyotunji. If I was to make a speech somewhere or be on a panel, I would say His Royal Highness Oba Esurgement Efuntola Adifumi, the first Baratomu, was the father of the African Revolution in America. And I would have to say that he had the intestinal fortitude or guts to bring all these things back, to recreate Yoruba culture in America. And we used to always practice being him. And I won that contest too. Because I say, I won that contest. I say, yes, well, You see, when the turbulent 60s came, and yes, well, and then on the talent shows, I would have to be him, right?
You got it.
I would
you
have
got
to be
it.
him. If on the talent shows,
right?
Now, if you got busted later being him,
right? It's a problem.
Yeah,
don't do
problem.
that.
So I mean, one man decided he was going to challenge him. What? Well, let's dance. Come on. You over here, a tall man, come, tall man. He went and got a tall man. And he said, OmotOlokun, play shekere. I was playing shekere. I didn't know what the deal was. They beat that man for about a mile down the road. He'd been abusive to his children, his wife, and everybody else. And see, I was afraid of the Alba because if he owed you one, he could get you in the middle of the night, in the early morning. And one time he suspected I had done something. So he said, guess what, OmotOlokun, you work with me the whole week. I said, oh, Lord, what have I done? And so I worked with him the whole week. Then he said, I could never quite understand you because I had the car driving all over the places and put it on the Queens because I was a chauffeur for the Queens. And I was driving on the Savannah, going every place and come back. And one time they had to get a place to stay because I was cruising all. You get to Savannah, you want to go one little step further, and next thing you know, you about almost in Florida. And so he was gonna make me confess. I said, no, you might have to do a reading because I sure ain't confess. But he got to know that I had guts and he could trust me. And you don't ever want to tell on yourself. You don't never want to tell on yourself. If somebody's asked you a question, you answer the question. And he realized that I had, because everybody thought I was a clown, but he realized, that's an act you put on. You're gonna be the village jester. You're gonna be the village clown is an act, and you got away with it. But now I know you're smart enough to do some things, so I expect some stuff out of you.
Right.
So that's when I wrote the doctoral program for the academy. Get back to the
so let's get back to that. Now, what year was this?
You asked me to remember years. That was...
That's okay. Just
that was in the 80s. That was in the 80s.
All right.
Early 80s, mid 80s?
Mid 80s.
Mid 80s.
Because I came back and you had to do so many things to have a doctorate of African psychology. Obviously, we presented one to the Alba. Chief OmotOlokun, Chief Matahochi, and myself received them. Okay, and we received them, and you had to be a priest. You have to have travel. You had to have done a lot of things. I had not traveled to Africa at that point, but after all, I'm the author of the doctoral program.
You put it together.
I put it together.
So this was for the academy, for the Yoruba Royal Academy.
And it's a poor dog that won't wag his own tail. And so I said, okay, and that was accepted because people had been writing. People had been writing. And now, what helped me was when I was in seminary, I wrote for the religious heritage of the black world. They had me writing papers on Egungun, ancestral worship. And one time I got in trouble because I wrote a paper called The Bible, that damnable book, that's Zionism and
got all the buzzwords.
Yeah, Zionism. But I got that out of college though. One professor told me that the Old Testament was Hebraic nationalism, and the New Testament was nationalism. One was history, and the other one was nationalism. And so you see it today. That's why you got the Gaza Strip, and that's why you got two people fighting with each other, and there's not a nickel worth of difference between the two of them. Okay, and so then the academy would begin to teach you things like history in its proper context.
Right.
You begin to learn about what Queen Mother Moore did and what the New York Yoruba Temple was doing. You learn about the great Chris Oliana. And you also learn
Chris Oliana.
And I turned, because Kabesi would tell me, he said, yes, OmotOlokun. I would go to his house and I was thinking I would study something dynamic. And he said he would have me wash his dishes because he couldn't translate some of the stuff. And so then you learn about Tegbeshu, the great Dahomey kingdom, the Ahochi warriors, which they did the woman warrior after.
The woman queen, the king, what was it?
And then
Woman king.
Woman king, yeah. And you learn about the Adefumi, the Oyo Adefumi clan. As a matter of fact, before he passed, me and Lafina Oyo had a little disagreement. And I wasn't going I think he had some medicine, so I wasn't gonna really try him. That was not my intent. But he made a statement that there could be no monarchy outside of Nigeria. And I had to differ with that because I have a king in the United States. See, whatever people say about His Royal Highness, the Oloya Tunji, that was my child. That was my child. And basically, you're not going to talk about my child. To me. I mean, he may be wrong in certain instances, but you're not going to talk about him to me because you just ain't going to do that. And the other piece is I watched him grow up. And if he ain't his father, there ain't no such thing as a father. And see, I watched him grow up. I watched him, and he has the same guts. He has the same swag that his father had. And the Arbars over here got to have that swag because people got to look up to us and say, man, he's a real king. Right. Like people see me in dress, like they see you in my home in Oxford, North Carolina. They say, oh, you brought another king here. Or when you put on your clothes, because they want it.
I say.
They want the culture. So they could come into Oyo Tunji and get a piece of culture on the weekend and then go back to what they were doing at the post office or whatever. So the bottom line is that we didn't survive this far just by accident. And once again, I have to say, when I see y'all, I say it's in good hands. And my wife was impressed to the nth degree about Yoruba culture. She said, I told her, I wanted to tell her, they kept me alive. When I got together with the Tegbe, kept me alive because I had the heart attack.
Right.
And I remember in the back of the ambulance, the guy said he is tombstoning. And so I finally just found out what tombstoning meant. They meant that we are going 60 miles an hour. We need to be going 85 miles an hour to get to the... And then I said, I hear y'all talking about me. So I took the straps off and set up. I looked out the back. There was my colleague, one of the sheriff's chaplains, and she was getting it in the squad car behind me. I said, well, this is very interesting. Then I get there and I hear him say, abort. Abort? What do you mean abort? Doing the surgery. Because they couldn't get the balloon in the little artery. It was going to blow the artery out. I said, y'all abort. Y'all abort.
This abort.
Because I was there working on myself, outside the body. Working on myself. Said, you need to get on out of here because you want to push the balloon through and that ain't working. So you just go. And then when I got with y'all, I said, we are in good hands.
Sure.
I'm now the elder that I used to laugh at. And now I'm stumbling and bumbling around and people outside the culture laughing at me. I said, that's all right. I'm still here.
Sure.
And so now, let's go back into one part of Oyo Tunji. When we began to coalesce with the community people. Me and the Alafa Juto went to this elderly lady's house, and we.
What was this at?
This was further down.
Is this in Sheldon?
Not Sheldon.
London?
It was in the Sheldon community, but you went down the road, and see, first I got to get my history straight to do the podcast with you guys, because you want details. That's my job.
That's all right.
I ain't doing it that great, but it was a little community, and we went further down. You go down, going to Charleston, Monk's Corner.
Monk's Corner.
Okay,
Monk's Corner.
Monk's Corner. That area.
Wow.
That area. And going down to that area. And so she said, I pay you $150 to paint the roof, the outside, and 11 rooms in our house. And the front porch. But she didn't have the money. She gave us some of it in food stamps. Some of it in chickens, because we had to do airball. She found a way to pay me called smoked neck bones and rice. That was amazing. She could have paid me my rest and smoked neck bones, but Alafa Juto didn't want to do that. Okay. And the Alafa Juto, you know him as Afemo. Afemo, the actor. And he didn't want to, so okay, we had to do that. We did all that work for her after we worked in all your tunes. And then we come in, when we saw it break was, we were coming back one day from work, and Miss Brown came out, that lived at the top of the hill. And Miss Brown said, "You boys like biscuit?" And we were told, "Don't take no biscuits, Miss Brown, because you end up being Miss Brown's husband." And so I said, okay. I said, "I don't care." And she don't look that bad to me.
You gonna eat
she might
the
be
biscuits
about 90-something
today.
years old, but I'm eating the biscuits. And she learned how to put them in a brown paper bag. You put a biscuit in a brown paper bag, it'll stay for 5, 6, 7, 8 days.
Wait a minute.
And so I got the biscuits. And Chief Adeyemi about it, I told him, used to tease me about that.
Chief Adeyemi about right to room.
I got the biscuits. You know, you can tease me all you want to. I got the biscuits.
So was Baba Adeyemi teaching at the school too with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was this teaching period because he was a genius.
Yeah, he was.
He was a cultural genius. Being a cultural genius, he could open his mouth and say something. And you know, when he take his glasses off, his eyes got twice the size. Okay? And when they got that big, the bigger they got, the more you need to pay attention. Pay attention. And then, especially, you knew he was going to teach, because when he trimmed his mustache, he was going to teach for him.
You about to hear me, you about right to the room.
About right to the room.
Wow.
When you come out,
spot on.
When you come out with the trimmed mustache and you go teach,
it's about to go down.
He's about to go down. And he had the best, he had the most prolific Eli of anyone.
Yeah, he did.
Of anyone.
Yeah.
Like he was born to have Eli.
Yeah.
Right.
And so he first started the Fila Beti Aja.
Okay.
He was a Fila Beti Aja.
Betty Aja, right there.
So he started the Betty Aja.
Yeah. And
Betty Aja.
then I had the privilege of running with Chief Ajamu,
Ibaratum.
And we didn't play. Because he could say, "Yeah, man, you know."
Chief Ajamu.
That was Chief Ajamu.
He by right to room.
And see, we did a lot of things together, because we were both Scorpios, and we played that off a lot. And he would come up to Milwaukee, or I would go down, and whenever there was a funeral, he would always have insight. He was big time at Gungun, man.
Yes.
And he had the insight to let us know you gonna have to do something a little different. You gonna have to do something a little different for this one. I remember one time we had a priestess that died, and we had to change her clothes in the cemetery. She wasn't going nowhere, but she got another outfit. And I'm saying, and the Catholic priest took off running. And he's still probably running. We don't know what happened.
You don't know. He probably never stopped.
Yeah, because he didn't stop. You see, he was going to tell us what to do. I'm the Catholic priest.
Nah.
You just, see, let me explain something to you. We were crazy. If the Orisha say do it, we did it and we liked it.
Sure.
Okay?
I say.
And we were just crazy like that. If you say put the airball in the middle of the highway, it would be in the middle of the highway.
That's what we gonna do.
You know, that's what we gonna do. I stopped in a Gungun initiation in Texas. I called for something to happen. And the priest decided that he didn't want to do that. And so I said, okay, Rumila, what do I do now? So you do this, this, and this so you won't cheat him and take $1,500 and go home. And that's what I did. He called me not too long ago, said, do I need to do something else? You haven't been talking to me. I said, yeah. You got to go to auditorium to get initiated in the Gungun Society. I said, you know, Rumila marks the airball. Rumila elede iping ibikeji olodemai. Marks the airball. And you decide I ain't gonna do that because somebody might take my video. I said, then you ain't got the guts to be in Yoruba culture.
Ooh, that go a long way, Bobby. You just said something very interesting there.
That's deep on a lot of levels.
Because if it says
you gotta have guts.
Hang a chicken up on the wire, up on a telephone pole, somebody's gonna climb up there and hang it on the telephone pole. Okay?
I said.
And then the storm comes through and goes around all your tunes and tears up everything else. There hasn't been a tornado in all your tunes that I could ever remember.
I say.
They go around, they bounce over.
So, Baba, the kids, who were the main students at the school? Was it the kids, the children of the priest that lived on the compound, or was it anybody outside the compound?
It was on the compound mostly. But if you lived outside and you had a relationship with all your tunes, mostly Chief Ogunleye's children, Chief Oyewole Baratono children,
Awolawo. That was our family.
And then you had, because I remember coming down and saying they would come. She Awolawo, she Awolawo, she Awolawo, she Awolawo, she Awolawo, she Awolawo. You know they were coming. I hated that song because I had the drum on. And he had a specific rhythm he liked. And if it made sense, it did. If it didn't, he had the drum anyway. And then we had Abatala being the patron of the Oyatunji.
Okay, right.
We had a lot of Abatala Bembe. And so Abatala Bembe. And the other thing was that in the school, Iyashanla did a lot of teaching in the school, and the women and men taught a few things. I taught language, and that's the only reason I learned. I actually learned the little Yoruba that I know, and then the priests began to learn things, and then there was Hunu, and who was Hunu?
It's the Yarba's daughter, Sejamin's daughter's in Tampa right now.
Right. Hunu, I forgot. I don't remember a Gotime.
Gotime?
Yeah, I don't remember her much. But But I remember when the All-By, we thought it was a nudist camp because they'd be dressed up for the bembe. Who knew? What was her sister's name? Who knew? Wait. Well, I know who knew, and His Royal Highness, the President All-By, used to love to run through all your tunes naked. They were little children, you know. They were little children, and
what Bible was the school 5 days a week, or?
It was whenever it needed to be. Because sometimes, as a teacher, you know
do what you want to.
These children, you know. Because I remember one time Matty Hochi said, he was in the village in and out, and Matty Hochi said, let the children be themselves. And so one little boy had a thing, he could be like a frog. He could leap and be over there and leap and do a crab walk or whatever. And then he was just running his mouth. And one time Matty Hochi broke down, silence! Silence, child, silence. Those was out here to forget this. And Matty Hochi was the one that had the most patience with the children in the school, you know. And so, as a matter of fact, when I got to Milwaukee and got established some kind of way, Matty Hochi taught, we had a school there.
This was after you left.
After you left, or your children
left.
Yeah.
So this is 80s, late 80s.
Now we're moving into the 90s.
We're moving to the 90s, okay.
Moving into the 90s. And because Matty Hochi taught language, and you had to know 7 greetings and, you know, Yoruba greetings and what have you. Shakubona, Ingizi Kona, you had to know that. Dambo.
In 7 different languages. Yeah, Kiswahili.
Amazulu, you had to learn Zulu. Yoruba and Fondabe. You know,
Benin.
So we did that. But the school was like, it was strict, very strict at first. And it was, but as you know, people grow up. People grow up. And that was one of the things that were happening. People were growing up. So let's get down, going to Mark's Corner. We finished the latest house. We come back. I'm going to use the food stamps I got from them. And we go in the store. We get ready to give Sandra, that worked in the store, hated everybody in the village. Okay. And worked in the store because her daddy actually liked folk in the village.
Okay.
And I got ready to pay, and he said, your money ain't no good in here. Sandra, give them boys what they want. Give them what they want. And we walked back with a whole bags of groceries. We get to that. Miss Brown come out again with the biscuit. So we going back in the village. Then a lady walked to the village to find out where them boys that helped Nana. So she said, so I went to the top of the hill from Oyotunji, and she said, see them road, them your road. She gave me like 3 rows as far as I could see the farm. Okay, on her land.
Wow.
For helping her doing the paint in the house.
She said, see them cow, them your cow. I wanted that cow bad, but the cow didn't cooperate. I was pulling the cow, and the cow looked at me like I ain't going nowhere. I've got grass right here. And so I couldn't take the cow. She gave me a cow. About a day or so later, people come down from what you call it, Ridgeland. And said, where them boys help Nana? Come go with us. We went down there, and they gave us a party for 2 days.
Wow.
And they were gambling, and the matriarch of the family was cheating. I could tell she was cheating. And she would make them ante up for her. She would never ante up the money. They would ante up for her. And we made a mistake. Me and our family ate the last of the rice. And then she said, if you ain't got no rice, you ain't got no meal. And so then I'm telling people what's going on with this. And then Ms. Brown said, don't worry me for that. And don't worry me for that. Don't worry we for that. You know, so I began to learn to speak Geechee.
Gullah Geechee.
Okay, and as I began to speak Gullah Geechee, I could understand what he was saying. This woman had been the midwife. She had delivered everybody in Sheldon and Beaufort.
Oh,
and
the lady
y'all
painted the house for.
Yeah, and
so everybody's coming to give y'all gifts for doing that.
Exactly. And so we made more than we would have ever made.
But then when you, we would have ever. That's like a story out the old do or something like that.
Yeah, because what we did there, we didn't have money, but after that, nobody would let us be broke. I mean, we would get $50
because of your character and your deed that you did.
Because of the character, like the story in Ogbe Alara, when they were told Rumila Shongo Ogun were told to always hang with Oshun, and then they would come back. They would go to war on the expeditions. And they would come back, they had to report in to Oshun when went. So they decided one time, she ain't going to war with us. We ain't going to tell her nothing.
Report it, right.
And so you find out that unity with women is very important. And in that old do. And so what happens, they were told to sacrifice a he-goat, the back of a he-goat, to cook it and roast it and everything for Oshun. And as soon as they did that, that's when they found Ire. And so, you know, there were certain days that Ray would come to Oyotunji because of the reputation. And plus there was a reputation that, you had Dr. Buzzard and Dr. Eagle, and then you had Lavender in Savannah. These were the big root doctors in the area. And because I helped with a case, a man was killed and his body was found in Oxford. And police called me and said, and I said, you ain't supposed to know what I do because I'm the pastor of the church. And I don't do these things. What I know about that? And I got one of the captains, I said, you got to get that Low John out of his mouth. That Low John root out of his mouth. Because that's why you can't convict him. And he had been to Dillon, South Carolina. And Dillon is big time root doctors in Dillon.
Right.
And so I said, check his phone. I did all the work for the detective. Check his phone. He's calling Dillon back and forth, and he killed his uncle. And so I said, just say, let me hold it for you then. I can't take your religion away. Get a napkin, let him hold it. When he take it out, don't give it back to him. And that's why he's still in jail today. Because people liked his uncle. His uncle was a good person, you know. But I learned all of that in Oyotunji and in the surrounding areas about the legends of Dr. Buzzard and Dr. Eagle. You go to court, and you've been to Dr. Buzzard.
Yeah, you getting off.
You walk out of there.
You walk out of there free.
And people don't know what happened. They said, I fell asleep in the court. I don't know what happened, man.
They don't even know what happened.
They don't even know what happened. This is a phenomenon of the area. This is a phenomenal area, man. And so then we got some play because what? We helped this lady and not knowing.
Bobby, you touched on something I wanted to ask you a question about. Could you talk about maybe just real quick, you said the unity amongst the women was important.
Right.
Can you tap into the, back in, in early days, the unity that women had versus what you see today, and can you maybe break that down some of what from your observation?
One of the observations that I make was the rites of passage that existed in Oyotunji, Egbe Moremi. As a matter of fact, when I got the authority to instill Queen Mothers, I instilled several. The last one I instilled was Iya Moremi Ajasoro.
Jasoro.
And I also had to do her funeral. And she started the Culture Fest To the John Chavis Society, who was an African American that taught white boys how to survive in Princeton because they didn't know Greek and Latin and all that. Ben Chavis's sister.
Okay.
And so, but Egbe Moremi was very crucial in Oyatunji, as was Akinkanji.
Okay.
And so
back in those days,
the women started Gelede. I think some of us did a reading when they were killing those children in Atlanta. Those boys in Atlanta. Yeah. Atlanta was supposed to have a Gelede ceremony that they never had. It was set to be done. And see, also Atlanta was a connection to Oyatunji. Because you can get to Atlanta quick from back and forth with Oyatunji. Now, Atlanta has always had a way of bringing money to Oyatunji. If customers would come, or groups would come. Matter of fact, when I was at seminary, my professor took a trip to Atlanta, to Oyatunji. The doctoral students had to go to Oyatunji as part of their whole program. And so you had Atlanta, and you had priests in Atlanta. You had priests in Atlanta. My first godmother, Chief, oh, here we go. Oh, Chief Waisuhuna, everybody I told him, was there. And so she moved back to Atlanta. And it didn't matter how she moved to Atlanta back, because and he moved to Milwaukee first. But everybody was getting out of Gary, Indiana. Because you had a whole lot of chiefs in Gary, priests in Gary, Indiana. Because Gary closed down, I used to tell them the last one out of Gary turned out the lights. Because Gary was going to shut down. And so you had people from across the country. Some people dogged Oyatunji, but they all loved it. You either loved it or you hated it.
You hated it, yeah.
And so most people respected Kabesi because they knew what he was doing. They had that New York experience with him. That New York, the parades in New York. And I sat down with Iyasunta Ibaratoro. She's Puerto Rican. And I watched the New York Puerto Rican Day Parade with her when it's about 2 or 3 hours. And even the people she called him Surge.
Surge,
and so people loved him for what he had done, and went down there and cultivated the land.
The land, yeah.
And so the women were on Ogboni.
Okay.
The women played a major role in decision making. Right, and then of course you always have the Iyalode, which is the head of the market and the head of the women. The Iyalode is considered like the woman, the king of women.
Did they have Iyalaje also? The woman that ran the market? Okay, just Iyalode.
Yeah, actually they had Olaja.
Okay.
And they had that. Women helped run the tourism, teaching in the school. And the school went like maybe 5 days a week.
Okay.
Because kids were beginning to learn to work as they got older. Then, and the market would open up, and women ran the market. They kind of scheduled who would do the readings when Alejo would come.
So the women would do a lot of that.
Scheduling, yeah. Who was up. If you want to know Oyatunji, you just miss your turn. My thing is, Oyatunji, Ogun used to eat cars in Oyatunji.
What you mean by
I came to Oyatunji with a fairly brand new Audi. And about
the road.
Yeah, about 6 months later, it was it was upside down in a big person's yard with the other cars. Because the roads.
That road was rough back then.
Was rough back then.
And 20 people would go to Buford with you, and only one of them had gas money, and that was probably you.
Right.
And so we began to do certain things, but also there was a connection with Hilton Head. Before Europeans took over Hilton Head, now to go to the cemetery, you got to pay to go to the cemetery for your own people, or they got certain days you can get in. We used to go to Hilton Head and cook fish out on the beach.
Singleton Beach.
Food on the beach, yeah.
Singleton Beach.
And that didn't exist anymore. There was a connection with Savannah, with a Janico family, and there was that connection, and then there was the original Wild Man. Tower.
Tower. I've met him a couple times.
Tower was absolutely out of his mind. We went to Nigeria and Tower started trouble. And they called him Issue. Whenever time he come down, Issue. He was the living embodiment of Issue.
He was.
And the Tower went to the airport and did something.
He used to wear the turban.
He went to wear the turban. And come easy. That was Tower.
That's exactly.
And so I said, okay. And but he every time I was a Yawo, he would come. And when he left, I had $30, $40, $50. He would bring it to me. I think there was some jealousy. There was some jealousy when I went to Nigeria because I didn't have a dime. I had enough money to get on the plane. And when I got there, EY goes a long way.
Sure.
And we have to develop that in our youth. And when I got there, first of all, when I went to meet Oba Peldu's mother, I prostrated for her. What bothered me was when I got there, how I met Oba Peldu, just said, somebody that looks just like your daddy. And I said, I got to meet this man. And he looked at me and I looked at him. He stopped the initiation he was doing. And they brought me in and took me up to that point of a Bonya initiation. I left there.
This is in the 90s, Baba?
Yeah.
Okay.
I left there as Oluwa, not knowing what that word meant or anything. Then I said I wasn't going to Nigeria. Went to Nigeria. And we finished up initiation. Some of the black folk that came, I call them black folk, Negroes with eleki with beads on, got jealous because I simply respected every elderly person I saw. And that way I couldn't figure I couldn't go wrong.
You can't go wrong.
And so they reported me to the king. And that night, the king has said, someone has annoyed me, and his name is OmotOlokun. And I said, what did I do? And then then the chiefs began to say how the elders said I had Juba. I had respect for them, and how I had respect. So what happened was the king said, and he will follow me tomorrow to Iperu. And the chiefs had made a decision, having no money, that I was going to Tefa. And you can't do nothing in Nigeria without the big money. So I went to, they were going to have some ceremony, or the Egungun was coming out. And it got deep because this chief says, I'm a chief, give me money. And I said, I don't have no money. And so when Oba came out, he asked me to sit on his right side. And the first time the Egungun come out, I hear, OmotOlokun. I said, uh-oh. Am I in trouble again? But then the Egungun said, Oremi.
My friend.
And I said, whoa. And that's when they took me. But prior to that, Kashim, a little boy, was sitting out there when the van pulled up. And people started crying and stuff when I got out of the van. The little boy ran up and grabbed me and wouldn't turn me loose. And they said, you look identical to his father.
Oh, wow.
That has passed. So I sit down with Kashim and I show him magic. The magic was Kashim said, he said, I know my tables. 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 6 is 12, 2 times 12 is 24. I said, that's good, but that's adding. No, Baba. For reason me, Baba. Oh, no, Baba. Baba, it's not. I said, okay, what's 3 times 3? He said, 9. I said, put 3 down. Add 3 to it. What's that? 6. Add 3 more. What's that? 9. That's adding. Multiplication is a different way to add. Oh, Baba, he's magic. So I said, you think that's magic? You wait. If you think that's magic, wait. Because what happened was, I said, division is subtraction. Oh, no, Baba, it's a division. Okay, get 3 apples. And you got 3 apples all by yourself. And your brother and sister show up. And you divide those apples. How many apples are you going to have? You now have 1 apple because 2 other people showed up. That's subtraction. Oh, I said, what's 2 from 3? 1. Baba, it is magic. So what happened after that was me and Kashim became like father and son. Okay? And I remember they went and bought a mattress for me, put it on the floor in the Peru. and next thing I turned over, and it was Kashim and all his friends. It was on the mattress. I said, this is obviously not my mattress. They bought it for me, but I had company every night. But one thing I like about them, they knew how to handle the creatures that came in the room. Because I saw this big spider on the wall, man. I don't know what it was. But then some flew in the room and ate it and took it out. And I said, okay. And I said, oh, man.
Baba, what year were you initiated to Egungun roughly?
Roughly in the 80s. Let's say around 1978.
78.
A little bit before the 80s. And that the Alagba was Ogunleye, he Baba Turon.
No, Ogunleye is still living. I'm talking about the old man was Alagba.
When you came in, who was Alagba?
When I came in, there was no Alagba. And Oshamola became Alagba.
Oshamola was my father.
Okay.
He came that.
Right.
He was the first Alagba.
Yeah, he was the first Alagba.
First Alagba. Okay.
Well, you know, got to realize Chief Omolo was everything. He was the dean of the academy, really, the school, and everything, because he was smarter than everybody. And he had more guts than everybody else, because everybody else would go to the dentist and get their shots to numb and stuff. He would come back from the dentist, no Novocaine, no nothing. He come back from the dentist, okay? And I'm saying, whoa, how'd you do that? He said, he didn't like all that stuff, numbing his mouth. Okay.
Gangster.
And he's the only one I know smoked cigars like folks smoke cigarettes. He could smoke a cigar like nobody's business, and have the cigar all day long. But I remember one morning, you know, when women would go through their cycle, they didn't cook for the men. And I mean, his wife been mad about something, and she went to her cycle, and she was in the middle of the floor. A pie over here, coconut cake over here. She had honey buns. And I looked at the Elay, and she had honey buns, lemon meringue, every dessert you ever wanted. And she was sitting on the floor tasting all of it. And she came and got me. Yo, she's eating. She's eating. She's eating. And she hadn't fixed his breakfast. She's eating. She's eating. And then so my thing is, in a minute, you just gonna go get your newspaper, light up your cigar. And I know where you're going. Yeah. And so you go do your ritual, and you'll find out. I knew. I said, but you'll find out what the deal is with her. But he said, she's eating. Can you believe she's eating? I said, yeah, I see her eating.
You figure it out.
I said, you're going to figure out
in a cycle.
In a minute. But you're going to figure it out in a minute. But that was the first time I was his confidant. She's eating. She's eating. Oshutoki, yeah. Her name was Oshutoki. Oshutoki she's a good person. She's still a good person. I see. But Oshutoki, sometimes she would play dumb with you, but she knew everything. She knew everything that was going on. She knew everything that was going on. And
shout out to Oshutoki.
Yeah, give her a big shout out. She also fed me.
I say.
During that time, you know, because they didn't want me. Well, see, I think it may have been Oshutoki. Yeah, Oshutoki that says, do you really want to treat a Olokun Yawo like a pauper? See?
Talking about you.
Yeah. Do you really want to treat a Olokun's child a certain way? And so, bottom line, you see what I'm saying? Bottom line, she said, I'm going to look out for you.
I say.
Okay? She might cook a little something, and they think, I get a little taste. You see what I'm saying? And so then it caught on among the women that if we want blessings from Olokun, we ought to treat this child a certain way.
I say.
And I agreed with them wholeheartedly. That's right. Treat me a certain way. I will pray to my Father for you.
I say.
My Father who is in heaven. I will pray for, just like the church, I will pray for my Father for you. And you will receive blessings.
I say.
And so, that kind of got out. The women also, you talking about women. Women, polygamy is difficult in America. And it's difficult in Africa, actually. Look at the IFA boy trying to run his house. and
I've been through a few, huh?
You know, been through a few. But the bottom line is, as I've told somebody that I shouldn't have told them, I have the barbershop rules. For a long time I had the barbershop rules. You know, in the barbershop, what does the barber say? Next. And so that was my way of dealing with it. So I've had many wives, but they weren't all there at the same time. And so that was an example we had to show as well. We had to show how that could work. Polygamy, how it could work. As difficult as it is, how it could work. And
what do you think makes it difficult, Bob, in your opinion?
What makes it difficult is that if women are self-centered, that means you're off-center. If they're centered, women started polygamy to get help and with the work and with the children and with the businesses they were doing. And if you in fact, the rule had been that women had businesses and had their own money, sometimes were richer than their husband. Okay? if you ever go in the marketplace in Lagos and you go to the Ojai and you look and you see a woman there with mud all up her legs, but she got a money belt tied around her. And she's selling the goat, and she's also selling a Lexus. I seen a woman sell a goat and a Lexus the same day. Okay? And so the women in the marketplace was always vital.
That's it.
It's always been a vital thing. That's why there's so many traditions about the marketplace. The women set the rules, Lord Child set the rules, set everything in the marketplace. And you had to be very careful in the marketplace because a lot of medicine and a lot of juju happens in the marketplace. And that's why I always went with somebody. I went once by myself, and I had to hurry up and get to the palace. Because I went once by myself, and the women were saying, marry me and take me to America. I said, no.
Yeah, we ain't doing that.
I ain't doing that. And so, but then, when I got back to the palace, the king admonished me because he knew everything I did walking down the street to the marketplace. All the things got back to him.
Oh, yeah, immediately.
Immediately got back to him. And so the women's piece, the women sometimes didn't get everything they should have gotten. Why? What I'm saying that is because they were in a survival mode for a while. And then we went through a period in Oyo Tunji, the 70s and 80s, when women came up with what they needed to do traditionally, the titles traditionally and everything. And now you have Oni Shango, and so you see you moving into that direction. Nations rise and fall. Nations rise and fall. For example, when you look at ancient Kemet, ancient Kemet with all the pyramids and all that was at the decline of Africa. What they did was say, we're going to make a museum. Egypt is our museum.
Right.
And we're going to make a museum to hold ourselves together because John Henry Clark would tell you that, that what you see on the stage of Kemet was rehearsed in sub-Saharan Africa.
I see.
Oh, wow.
And that what you see there is, now, for example, my son got in trouble arguing with a teacher. I said, son, don't you argue with him. I'm coming to school and I'm gonna knock him out if I have to. Because he said there was no such things as airplanes in Egypt. And in other words, y'all niggas ain't got no history.
Right.
And so stop being ridiculous and messing with my class. Okay, I take him a picture of a hieroglyph. And he said, well, what's that? I said, what does it look like to you? It looked like a cross. I said, look again. Oh, he said, it's a road, it's an intersection. I said, how do you know it's an intersection? He said, well, I'm looking at it over top of it right now. I said, well, good, you're smart. Because what that is an aerial view of an intersection in Kemet. How do you get an aerial view? You got to be over the intersection. So you were over the intersection in a less than air glider. They were using gliders to survey the land. And you would glide over the land and survey it. And then go back, take it back up again, glide over it and survey it. So what you're looking at is an intersection. I said, so I guess there was an aeroplane. And so he had to apologize and do all that. So then now, Sub-Sahara, we talking about Mali, Shanghai, we talking about Yoruba cultures, we talking about the Oya dynasties. One of the important things that we learned in Oyo Tunji was the play Obakoso. And the play Obakoso that taught us a lot about ancient Oyo or whatever. Speaking of which, the late Olafin of Oyo never argued with me anymore about that. Because how did I sell him on it? I sold him on the fact that people are tracing their roots now. They're getting DNA. So people gonna be running to Oyo with money to find their relatives, to get initiations, and see. One of the things that the Yoruba like is Owo. You can believe that. And so this thing is now, I might be missing out on some money if I keep talking about there's no monarchy. It was some people in England and France that wanted to have Obas there.
Oh, okay.
And so that was the situation.
Yeah.
Even in Oyotunji, when people were feeding me information about the two families that had some problems, I said, I'm not in that because all of them are my children. All of them are my children.
I say.
Do you remember the West African taco that Chief Ajamu used to make? Oh, man, and I got to find, I don't think anybody knows the recipe now.
No, he didn't give out too much of his recipes.
No, he didn't give out
too much of his recipes.
He could cook.
He can cook.
He could cook. And I see, that was another something that, I think the house burning down was almost erased. Because, boy, I got to eat everywhere I wanted to eat.
A blessing in disguise.
Drink everywhere I wanted to drink. But no, it was if the gods tell you not to go hunting, then don't go hunting.
Right.
Don't go hunting. And later I find out what is the main taboo that I cannot eat. Deer meat.
Deer meat.
And what do I do with deer skin? I had to have it for, I had to divine on deer skin. Yeah. And so I'm saying, I got that so late.
Right.
And so then the next day in Nigeria, also the chief said, Chief, and then I didn't know I was a chief. Chief, we have not drank Gouda with you. You know, Gouda and Star is the #1 beers in Nigeria. So I had to buy 2 cases of Gouda. The men drank it out the bottle. The women poured their beer in a bowl, and they passed the bowl around. Okay? So then I get there, I testify, and I didn't have a dime. What saved me was I was sleeping in the living room. Okay, I could sleep in the living room and watch the TV. It was like snow. You know the old TV? That's what you was getting. And nobody else could sleep in the living room. I didn't know why. It's because the Oba's father was buried in the living room. And one day when he dug up the floor to do an Eba, I was the only one that could stay in there with the energy that I could stay in there. I could stay in there. The only thing the word bothered me were 2 things in Nigeria. One, when I got to see the mothers. One, Yami. And I was like, I ain't dealing with this. I'm gonna let them talk. They talking, I'm gonna let them talk. I'm not gonna interrupt. They came out and were talking. And they talking back and forth and looking at me. I remember my big mama saying, grown folks talking, stay out of it.
Stay out of it.
So I stayed out of that. And then when they pulled that machine gun on me, that wasn't no fun. Took my passport, by the way. And pulled a machine gun on me. And the security from KLM got me back on the plane.
Yeah, where was this? This in Lagos?
Yeah.
What year was this around?
92.
92.
Now, Yoruba culture, predominantly, we are Yoruba by nationality, most of us in the United States. Well, that's the largest majority. The when I did my DNA and ancestry and all that, it confirmed to the letter what the divination had told me, what the roots reading had told me.
Do you remember who did your roots reading?
Kabiesi.
Kabiesi.
And then part of Kabiesi. But my first reading was from Chief Awolowo about it.
Chief Awolowo.
That was my first reading. He said Olokun, and it never changed. It never changed. It never changed. And from him I learned the coconut shells, the rectangle, the circle, the square, and what else? Rectangle, circle, square, and what was the other one?
It wasn't a triangle.
Yeah,
was
triangle.
Triangle, okay.
Yeah, triangle.
Mimicking the Obiabata with the cowrie shell.
Yeah, boy, girl, woman, boy, man. That's how I learned how to do that because he could do that. So then we would bring Oyotunji up to Milwaukee for African World Festival. Me and William Clay, also known as Shango Lori, he was president of African World Festival. I was in charge of the culture area, and we built a large, I don't know what you call it, the Queen Mother mask. We built that with 2 tusks on the grounds. Then we built an African village on the grounds for Juneteenth Day.
Where?
In Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, okay.
We've had as many as 100,000 people on the streets in Juneteenth Day.
I remember they used to build the Kabiesi and them used to go up there. We was little, but we used to travel up to Milwaukee in the zebra vans.
Yeah.
And we used to build the whole, like from scratch.
Yeah.
We used to build the African village display.
Exactly.
In Milwaukee. And they did that every year.
Every year.
Every year. We was up all night building.
Joe Winston, Mac Weddle, Shango Lori, Chief Awolekun, like Bada told him. I did his funeral too. I've done a lot of funerals for people. Funerals for people.
One thing, Bob, we wanted to ask about is your destiny is a bit unique because, you know, fate will have it and IFA confirmed for you that you were supposed to be dealing with IFA and be the pastor or the leader of a church. Can you talk about that a little bit, how that played out?
I got away from the church for like years after
coming to Oyotunji after seminary, right?
But then I moved back into it because that's where my people were. And you'd be surprised how many folk from the church get divinations and do what they're supposed to do. Just like in Africa. And then one Alba finally told me, he said, do you know I'm an imam? I said, what? He said, I'm an apostle in the church. I'm an imam in the mosque. I'm a babalao. I'm a rabbi. I'm a paina. I'm a paina in Ogboni. And culture overrides anything.
Sure.
As one deacon said, be who you is and not who you is not. And that's basically
that sums it up right there.
That sums it up. Because the whole situation is, where do you find your people in the church? Some of them are misguided. Atheism says that Jesus had a problem with a shoe. And if you got a problem with a shoe, you ain't gonna get too far.
You ain't gonna get too far on that.
You ain't get too far. So one time I was arguing with some people. I said, but you say the blood of Christ in the communion. The Catholic people really deep because Presbyterians, it symbolizes something.
Right.
Catholics say this is the blood.
And the body.
And the body.
Right.
And so I'm saying, then you might as well go and do the chicken.
You might as well do the sacrifice.
Might as well do the sacrifice and go and do the chicken.
Right.
I said, but you know, I couldn't lose my job. I wasn't going to be doing no sacrifices up in there. Because they don't know the supply house in the backyard. They might see any number of things in there. And so now I like culture because I can get away with stuff. My wife said, yeah, I told you you're diabetic and you're eating all those sweets. I said, didn't I tell you Egg Bay loves the candy? Egg Bay loves the cookies. Egg Bay loves grape soda. I don't know if Egg Bay loves grape soda.
They do like soda.
I like grape soda.
Right.
And so she let that go.
Let that slide.
She let that slide.
So when
and she said, and now you're eating the pig feet. I said, ancestors love pig feet. And ham. You must be out of your mind. Every time I go, what do you want? If I get in trouble, man, I ain't going to say, hey, what about some pig feet?
That's what they want.
And the amount of corn liquor that I have amassed around the house, Sekete is interesting. And not only top of that, energies were always used. The priest that helped the Hebrews most was Melchizedek. And that's the only one that God said, you're not going to know about Melchizedek. You're not going to know about Melchizedek. And Abraham, remember when he was supposed to sacrifice his son? You get there and there was a ram in the bush? He realized now that this is what we do.
Right.
This is what we do. We sacrifice rams on the altar. Hebrews still do it.
Still do it today.
Sacrifice ram on the altar. And I said, you can't eat the chicken unless you kill it.
Unless you kill it. And
then you're supposed to kill it in a certain way, not butcher it like they do in North Carolina. And you're supposed to do a certain thing, and so that it comes out. You don't traumatize the airball. You do the airball quick and you do it swift. You don't traumatize the animal.
Right.
Okay. Except every now and then the guinea hens get traumatized. Oh, I love that. Because guinea hens are some of the meanest animals in the world, you know.
Yeah.
And so because I've seen guinea hens break the rope and they go straight for your eyes. And I saw a man get hit right about here on with a guinea hen. So if I happen to make a mistake and stumble, and guinea hen get popped upside the head on the wall, well, I stumbled. Okay.
Right.
But guinea hens are very good meat, though.
They cost more than chickens, too.
Right, but you got to cook the palm oil just the right amount with it. Don't overdo the palm oil. And then you got some, and the pepper has to blend with the palm oil.
So Baba, how long did you run how long were you the head of the church?
20 years. The last church I was in was 20 years.
Sure.
I retired June 28th of last year. And I tell the joke, I got tired of Aunt Hazel's children. Because them the church folks. And I was able to do more. For example, in Milwaukee, I had a program called Mo Peace, where we taught African history, drumming, dance, foods, Kiswahili, quilting. Okay? I did more because the church provided a historical approach to African people, which allowed me to do it. It allowed me to do it.
Right.
And then some people I needed to pull out of that, that slave mentality that they had. And so we were able to say, let's just talk about, deal with what we have to deal with in the church. Okay. this scripture says this, and this scripture will make you a slave if you interpret it wrong.
If you interpret it wrong, right.
And so it'll make you a slave. And the whole concept of the church is, it has an African flavor to it in a way. In other words, what you believed in is something that was dead on Friday is now walking around on Sunday. That's appealing to black folk.
Right.
You ain't gonna get that out of them. When my daddy said he got up with all power, yeah, that's my daddy. Yeah, Pentecostal. The only people that dance in church is Church of God in Christ and Pentecostal. And the first thing I did was get that down right. Because you know, and have you ever seen the picture? I'm going to take a picture and show you. You ever seen the picture of C.H. Mason?
I don't think so.
The star of the Church of God in Christ?
I don't think so.
He was a home guy. And on his table, he got all the roots that he used.
So he was a root doctor.
Yeah, High John the Conqueror, Low John, and some roots that you don't even know exist anymore. He had them around the table. And he established that right away.
On the altar at the church.
Yeah, he established that right away. My grandfather knew roots and herbs real tough. And the great Orsanisto that ever existed in the world was Dr. George Washington Carver. He was a priest. And he was a priest because not only could he talk to the plants, but he could split the plants like the atoms of the plant.
Come up with all those different
things.
And he said, you know, he talked to the plant. He get up 3, 4 in the morning.
Right.
And the plants talk to him. That's our sign.
That's our sign. Now the big sale now that people got going is the talking our science. And you need to leave that alone unless you know what you're doing. Talking our science ain't no joke. That's what the patron of our worshipers of our science are ventriloquists. And the ventriloquists. And they are extraordinary people.
Yeah.
And so, but Oyotunji had a special something because the preachers would come to Oyotunji to get their readings. They would come to get their readings and then go back and do what they did. And obviously, you can't pronounce it. I'm thinking a lot of people knew that I was deep in the culture, and my answer to them would be: nothing supersedes your culture, your ancestors. Nothing supersedes
everything
your
is secondary to that.
Right. And so then they said, "You agree with Nat Turner?" Yep.
All day.
Yep.
How can you disagree with him based on what was going on at that time?
He told me to take care of these people, and I did. Demar Vesey, Gabriel
Prosper,
down in South Carolina. And her name was Amenta, and they called it Minta sometimes, but my family says her name was Amenta. Sometimes they call it Minta, and she was a Ross, and she married a Tubman. And when she married a Tubman, my family history says she became Harriet Tubman. Also a priest.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot get through the gators and the snakes and whatever.
You got to know something.
They say she would go out and she would get the communication. Don't go that way, go this way. It would tell her she would, pass out or whatever. Baba said, we could talk to you, or we had to come back up here because We could talk all night, but
well, I'm sorry, I've just been rambling, but you've been making me think of stuff.
No, you did.
You good.
Chief makes me think of dates. I hate just thinking dates. I remember sequences. I don't remember dates.
Right. No, you doing good.
You're doing good, brother.
I've come back with some dates tonight.
No, you doing,
times.
yeah. We just roundabout. We trying to put the timeline together. So, look, Bob, before we get out of here, I had one thing, if you could address for us. What would be your advice to us, to, you know, our age and the next couple of generations that are coming behind us, based on your wisdom and your experience? What can you summarize a few points of advice for us that we could listen to?
One, you need Saturday school for your children.
Did you say Saturday school?
Saturday schools.
Okay, let's break that down.
Saturday schools.
You make it some fun, but you got to give them an ego that's bigger than what the trumpeters and other folks can take away. And the Florida governor can stop. One of the things about the church that I like, you going to church, okay? You going to church, you gonna sit there and you got some sense. And our thing now, we let people, kids decide whether they're gonna be Yoruba or not. That was the most asinine thing that we could have done. If all by a surgeon man, Rabbi Arturo, had done that, we wouldn't have a king.
Wouldn't be
now.
here.
Yeah. We wouldn't have a king now, or we would not be here. And that where there's no struggle, there's no progress, says Frederick Douglass about Arturo. It's like wanting the ocean without the mighty roar of its wave. Wanting the food without tilling the soil and tearing up the earth. And so there is a struggle. And as they say in Portugal and places, a luta continua. The struggle continues. And you're supposed to fight. You're supposed to have warriors. And you're supposed to fight. You're supposed to defend. You're supposed to take care of the business. And my wife said, "Do you need all those guns?" Yeah. The last one that got made for me was AR. I had an AR, 5.56, but the last AR I got is a 50 caliber. And so I'll blow up a whole city block and then come back and shoot the next time and make it go. Now I know I'm on a podcast, but what I'm saying is, I agree with the Second Amendment people that say you have a right to defend yourself, and we have a right to defend ourselves.
Sure, of course.
Right to defend ourselves when people can open the door and get shot right away. Defending ourselves. And one thing I like about the new sheriff that I'm working with in the chaplaincy program is there ain't gonna be none of that. There ain't gonna be none of that. Shooting people and putting necks on knee on people's necks and stuff. And our ancestors survived because they did some things. Okay, one of the things we have to do, men have to create a rites of passage program for boys. I was fortunate that I can conjure to Milwaukee into the public school system. And what we did was at Malcolm X Academy, we had 70 boys that were in the rites of passage program. And the word got out. And when the word got out, when I was sending my boys into, and I asked the principal, can I have the concept of a game? He said, explain that to me some more, because, because see, for example, I was getting ready to get paid $700 a month for one day to deal with a gang in the John Muir Middle School, which was in the project. I get there and I walk down the hall and I hear this voice say, "Hey, Mr. Omotolokun, I said, oh, hell no, I don't know. And I told the principal, I don't know who that is. Matter of fact, I didn't hear anything. You heard something? And he said, so the principal later would get back in the office. And he says, I got a new gang over here. Could you help me with this? And I said, oh, Lord. It's Schoolyard Thugs was the gang. It had S, yard, Y, basketball in the Y, thugs, S-Y-T, Schoolyard Thugs. I got my son in Catholic school, Marquette High, $30,000 a year, and he's running the gang in the project of John Muir Middle School, and his warlord is in John Muir Middle School running the gang. And he said, so when we come back, he said, Mr. Omokunne's son is our leader. There went the $700.
That was done, huh?
That was done. And so I went home and said, so one day the families voted, you just took $700 out the household, and we decided we're going to poison you. And he didn't eat for a week. He wouldn't eat nothing in the house, or nothing. His money ran out. He was eating chips, drinking sodas. Then his money ran out. Okay. We need a rites of passage for our children. And it has to be significant rites of passage.
The boys and the girls.
Boys and the girls. And it has to be significant rites of passage. And we have to stop the concept that boys will be boys. Well, boys will be boys. Certain things we can't say, certain things we can't do publicly.
True.
And so my whole concept is that, first of all, we need to study our languages.
Sure.
Language gives you cultural privacy.
Serious study.
Gives you cultural privacy. I got a little boy named Damien that has moved next door to me.
Cultural privacy.
And he's Mexican. And he's wearing out my Spanish. I have to go. I'm going to go get a translator on my phone because he's wearing out my Spanish. And he took to me like I'm his tío, his uncle. And now he said, and my wife is his aunt. And he's one of them Mexicans that's real dark. And you wonder. And so what the bottom line says to me is that he took to me, he saw something. Boys ought to see something in the men that's around them that makes them be men. Okay, that makes them be men. They ought to see something around them. And then we got to deal with our drumming. Because I remember the drumming on All You Tuned used to be thump, to thump, to thump, to thump, to thump, to thump, to thump. And I said I hated it because drumming came much later. Now we have doom doom. And so now we got, we are fortunate, we as we look at it, we still got some tensions. But as we look at it, I tell people that we're in good hands.
We're
in good hands. Man, what you got on tonight that you ought to give me, and you can get another one. What you got on tonight? Man, we used to be the raggedy, taggedest people. We'd go somewhere. The feline bet our jobs, one would stand up and the other one wouldn't, the other side wouldn't. And we were just raggedy, taggedy. We looked like hobos. One lady said, why you walking around with the pajamas on? And I said, because but we progressed.
Right.
We progressed. Now I believe, in fact, that there's some things now that a Gungun society does that I can appreciate, that we didn't do then, but you needed it for now. But on the bottom line is, I know some of y'all crazy, and I ain't going through some of the stuff that you do now. I'll accept my eldership, and I'll accept my aglagbarship, and my chieftaincy, and I'm going to hold on to that. Because fraternities and sororities ain't the only one doing hazing. And so I said, but the thing is that, and then we got to love the culture. We got to love the culture. Every day you need to study something. You You need to
10 minutes,
something.
5 minutes, 15 minutes, something.
If you're gonna study for that time. One of the things when people bring me are selling obiabata that are taped together, there's a secret to opening the obiabata. We got to know that. And if you tape it together, there's no secret. And so, you know, certain things, the Odu says, when you go to visit a town and you come back, don't tell everything you see. Don't tell everything you see when you do. And then the other thing that y'all knew, don't hurry back from enduring suffering marketplace. There's some suffering that you're going to go through. Don't hurry back from enduring suffering marketplace, because you learn something in that marketplace. And that we have to do. We have to find a way to keep our families together.
There you go. I knew that's where you were going.
Find a way to keep our families together. Y'all have been fortunate because y'all have beautiful inside and outside wives.
I do pay. I say.
And been fortunate. And then men have to respect the other brothers' wives.
I say.
Respect other brothers' wives. And when I counsel Yoruba men, especially, a lot of men I've counseled, and I'm having barbershop rules. I'm not the best counselor, but the bottom line is simply this: stay out of the woman's purse, stay out of her phone conversation, stay out of her mail, and you can probably get along with her for a long, long time. And remembering that they have certain energies. And certain days they this, and other days they that. And sometimes they shut up. That bothers my wife. Because she said, but I'm talking, you're not answering anything. You're not. I said, you don't want to hear what I really want to say right now. It's just like being African in America. If white people could read my mind, I'd have been hung long time ago. If they could really read my mind. And I had to speak last night before the commissioners about how they were trying to treat the black sheriff. The first black sheriff we had in 278 years, they're trying to treat him different.
In that county.
And I'm saying, hey, this guy's hiring people, got Vietnamese, got white women, got more black women that have ever been deputies before, and all the people that took the state exam passed it. All the black people passed the state exam. And the rate of recidivism, he got iPads in the prison, man, where you can talk to your family. Okay? And he watching what else you do with it.
Right.
He can block all that.
Right.
Whoever heard of you could talk to your family by iPad in the prison. And also the federal prisons is overrun. So he said, okay, give me so much money a month, and I'll keep your prisoners for you. So he's making over $300,000 a year for the county. And then you don't want to give him his overtime? And I'm the chairman of the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. You know, in the state of North Carolina, the juvenile has been raised to the age of 17. I fought hard for it, but now I wish I hadn't, because them 17-year-olds is some hard brothers to deal with, man. As juveniles, they are hard brothers to deal with.
Definitely.
The other piece is, in the rites of passage program that we put in the school system, we had to imitate African culture. Sometimes you have to imitate African culture at its best, not at its worst, but at its best. For example, we had a Balogun, OC, I'm sorry, OC and O2. And when they would come down the hall in the morning, instead of saying, yo, dog, what's up? They would say, Alafia. Which means I bear no weapons, I have anything, okay? And then they would salute, good morning, sir. The Balogun would answer to them, "Good morning, sir. Alafia, sir. Kaira, sir." This was in the school system. They would go into the classroom, kneel for their teacher, touch the ground for their teacher, say, "Good morning, yeah." Okay? Baba, good morning, Baba. Then I went to the length of putting the African drum troupe in the school, drum ensemble in the school. Then I went to the length of saying that if you get suspended, you can no longer be in my group. Okay, then I went to having ojiri. You know, you make a circle and you put the defender in the middle of the circle and you tell him about himself. And if necessary, you give him a good whipping. But this is among the kids. And so the principal said, "I don't want to know nothing about it. Do what you got to do, Chief." And so they started calling me Chief because my granddaddy was called Chief in North Carolina. He sued the Boy Scouts in 1919. And they decided that he could not have a jamboree. He raised $5,000 in the black community in 1955.
Dang, that's a lot of money.
And then had planes fly in from Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. We got on the plane and we camped on the Pamlico Sound in Little Washington, North Carolina. Okay? The governor said he stayed the execution of 2 black men because they didn't have benefit of being in Tom Stiff's Boy Scout troop.
Oh, wow.
Okay? So he saved their lives. My granddaddy instituted the belt line. You a single parent, mama? You call my granddad in the morning, say the son has been acting up, acting crazy, not going to school, talking back. He reports to the Boy Scout cabin after school. We all dressed in our uniforms with our belts out. We walk him down the line. Most people don't get all the way down the line. But a couple of bad boys, they had to come back and start again.
Yeah.
They don't get back down the line the second time. Okay? And we got to make boys be men. So we used the Akinju concept from Oyotunji. And then we have when we had the rites of passage celebration. We had one thing they had to do. They had to be willing to go into baskets and stuff and trust that there's not snakes and stuff in there. And one of the things, when we pulled it out, we realized, what was it? It was a basketball. We got to stop using basketball. The NBA is rites of passage. Okay? How many people on a team? 15? These millionaires? And first of all, there ain't no such thing as no Giannis Antetokounmpo. The boy's name is Antetokounmpo. That's their name. That's his name.
The basketball player.
He came from Nigeria. And there's no such thing as the black Greek. Okay? You can be all you want to. What did Malcolm X say? You can put chickens in the oven, but it won't make them biscuits. And so the bottom line is those are some things we got to do. We got to act African.
Sure.
One of the things that I liked about what I was doing in college and growing up, I made up languages. I just wanted to be African. And you got to want to be African. I just made up languages. Ookum bookum, whatever. You know, and I made up, and my Mumba was I was his uncle, Mumba's uncle. And bye told him. And Boom he made a performance from Ookum Bookum, and about being black, and sometimes you had to make up stuff to be black. Then we have people we can celebrate. We have to celebrate everybody that we can celebrate.
Sure.
First of all, then we have to say, get up to the morning and say, Orihu.
I say.
Orihu. Orige. Orige. And then start Orilamio. We got to start taking care of our own Ori. Because I have a habit of being ADHD. Sometimes whatever comes up comes out. And and sometimes I tell some horrendous jokes, like I'm getting ready to do now. But the point is, you got to know what an issue is. Junior was gonna be 12, and Junior say, I can't wait tomorrow. I'm gonna be 12, and I'm gonna be 12 tomorrow, and I'm gonna say hell anytime I feel like it. And little Ade said, well, if you gonna say hell, I'm gonna say ass. He said, you can't say ass. You 5 years old. He said, I am. You say hell, I'm gonna say ass. It's So he gets up the next morning and Yeye says to Junior, what you want for breakfast? My boy is 12 years old. What you want for breakfast? Anything you want for breakfast. Pancakes, a kara, whatever you want for breakfast. I don't know. And then she said, you got to come up with something. He said, oh, what the hell then? Give me some Cheerios. So she smacked him all the way across the other side of the room. His daddy came down and smacked him on the other side of the room. They called the teacher from the school. She came over, he was sitting down, she snatched the chair away from under him and smacked him again. And they slammed him on the sofa, half conscious. He was laying on the sofa, half conscious, right? She said, my baby got more manners than you. I said, baby, what you want for breakfast? He said, I don't know, but you can bet your sweet ass it ain't no Cheerios. And so we as black folk got to figure out what the issue is. We deal with a whole lot of stuff that's not the issue.
Yes.
Who cares about
the symptoms?
T.D. Jakes going to P. Diddy's party. T.D. Jakes was doing a whole lot of stuff before he was T.D. Jakes. And I don't believe all the stuff they say P. Diddy did. But they piling on. Because they still owe P. Diddy for messing with J-Lo. They still owe him for that one. And they made J-Lo cut him loose, but he was tired of J-Lo anyway. Okay? Now she's divorcing another somebody.
Yeah, she stayed divorced.
She stayed divorced. And so the whole thing is they get on Jay-Z and Beyonce. And the reason they getting on them now, because Beyonce wasn't supposed to mess with country western.
With country, yeah, they ain't
she
feeling
wasn't supposed
that.
to mess with that. And so we mess with some of everything. Look at these people swimming in the Olympics now, winning medals in the Olympics for swimming. Okay, come on.
Yeah.
And here comes Tiger. Tiger didn't never know who he was, bless his heart. He didn't never know who he was. And his daddy was keeping them together culturally. When his daddy died, that's when...
That was it.
That was it. And first of all, I wouldn't let white wife or no other wife hit me with a Titleist golf club that costs $4,000 per club. You know, you can go and get a butcher knife or a rock or a baseball bat, but this is how I make my money with this Titleist golf club.
Right.
You better go find something. And I ain't gonna drive out and crash my car.
Yeah.
Because I'm that messed up about some European woman. And so we got to know what the issues are. Okay.
Deal with the real issue. I say, Baba.
And then we love Master so much that as soon as we get our money, we figure out a way to take it to them.
Right back. Immediately.
Immediately take it back to them. One of the organizations I'm working with now is Operation Spring Plant. And in Operation Spring Plant, we deal with African-American farmers. And there's some new farming stuff that we're learning now to do. And we got it packed with the Lumbee women farmers, and they can do some serious farming down in Lumberton area. And when you look at the hieroglyphs in the pyramids, it's the European Egyptologist says the peasant farmer. That's not what it says. It says the honorable farmer. And that people who feed you and grow your food are very, very
important.
Are very, very
in society.
important.
Certain things aren't valued now. It's been kind of flipped around.
Yeah.
You know, with all the social media and the media and the things that they're trying to portray and misguide us with. So Baba, we appreciate you so much for being here.
I'm just getting wound up now.
we gotta wrap it, but we way over, but we could never be over with you, Baba, because we could sit here and go all night.
Because I just, I don't have no off button. And I apologize for that, but
no, Baba.
That's what
this is good.
Oh yeah,
I don't have an off button.
Beautiful.
This was. I think people will really enjoy, listening to the history and gaining the insight and the wisdom.
Yeah, you dropped a lot of jewels here tonight.
You mean a lot to us. And what you did for my sons, for my Beji. This man is a great man right here. A pioneer in the culture, in this country, and a part of history. You and what you and the Oba and all of the original elders did and what you built. So this is one way of using this platform to express that, to continue to teach that, to spread it, to propagate it, to preserve it, and to really take it more serious, to be honest with you right now at this time, so we can build on to what y'all built. So we just want to say thank you and give you your flowers now.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
One last person. The great Efundeji Ibarato. My first Babalosa. When he would come out, he would give me that laugh. And I said, he had the right name, Efundeji.
He had two Obatala.
And two Obatala. The other thing is that whatever you do, sometimes you have to put a suit on maybe to go to work, or you do something. But don't ever give up your culture.
I say.
Because I remember when we used to hide a lecky inside. And I'm dealing with people now. I'm dealing with a young man now who's coming to me out of the clear blue sky. And I hate godchildren. So some of y'all gonna be getting my godchildren. But as soon as somebody come to me and say, will you be my godfather? No.
Yeah.
You can go to Oyotunji. You can go to Atlanta. You can go to Gastonia. Who would ever thought anybody in Gastonia area would be in African culture? I said, so you can go. And you got people in North Carolina named Joe, Nancy, and all these people who opened up these Orisha houses. And one guy told me today, and what broke my heart was how Babalawo Edubi, in Atlanta, was working with gangs, and you had people sagging with a lecky on, and then they killed him. And my simple thing was, I know I'm on a podcast and I don't care. My thing was, that doesn't belong with the police. Y'all need to handle that in your community. You need to be strong enough to handle that in your community. In my Akin Kanju, I define that as facing valor face to face. Akin Kanju, facing valor face to face. And so bottom line is you got to have guts. You got to have guts to do something. You got to stand up to certain things. There are certain things you will not compromise. If you ain't willing to die for something, you ain't willing to live for it. And there's certain things you will not compromise. And so that's the thing that made me like Kabe Surgeon so much. It's like he didn't play. When it was war, it was war. And when it wasn't, it wasn't. And he had fun and everything, and support your folks. Now, I don't smoke cigars, but I might have to smoke me one before I leave here tonight. but
brother, what's the name of where we are right now? Let's shout out where we are right now.
Yes. This is Exhale.
We at Exhale Cigar Lounge
in Raleigh, North Carolina.
And Raleigh, what's the address, brother?
1103 New Bern Avenue.
1103
New Bern
Avenue.
Come check it out.
We in Raleigh, right?
Raleigh,
Yes,
North Carolina.
In Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the illest cigar bar. I'm going to come all the way back just to come here when this place is open because so we want to salute this brother. And what's the name of the studio also, my brother?
MOD Studios.
He got a beautiful. The studio is even more beautiful than where we are here right now. So we want to give a shout out to our brother, black-owned business. One of the nicest cigar bars I think I've ever been in. One state-of-the-art studio next door. So patronize them. You can find them. We'll put that up on the podcast on how you can reach the brother. But yeah, so again, Baba, we want to thank you. This is going to conclude our episode on Baba OmotOlokun. But definitely the first African American Olokun initiate in the country. So this is history right here. We give thanks and praise to the ancestors, IFA and Olodumare, Ifa Bawashe, and Dumare Bawashe, and Wanleshiku Bawashe. We say Odabo for now. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share. Let's Talk IFA. I am Awo Ifa Jaminire.
And I am Awo Ifa Tegunshe.
And you are tuned in to the greatest podcast on the planet. Let's Talk IFA. I say, wow, Dabo, everybody. I say.